How's it going, people? Sam here, and today we're going to have a little bit of a special showcase for the Runescape Lore. Today we're going to be focusing on the 7 priestly warriors. Now, you may or may not actually know who or what the 7 priestly warriors are, so I'm here to tell you. The 7 priestly warriors was a group of 7 men during the 4th Age that actually joined forces with the Avarrockian army to force back and repel Draken's minions, as well as many of Draken's family themselves, back past the River Selve and back into Morytania. At the same time, these 7 priestly warriors also erected the Great Barrier across the River Selve, which to this day still protects Geilinor and its people from the hordes of Draken's army. So let's get started then. As this was back in the 4th Age, I think we really need to start from the beginning. And the start of this tale goes all the way back to the Morytania campaign. So what is the Morytania campaign then? Well, Draken's forces crossed the River Selve through Silvarea in roughly 1100 of the 4th Age, and they were immediately discovered by settlers just to the northeast of Avarrocka, known today as Avarrocka. The Avarrockian military immediately responded en masse, beginning a complicated tactical battle revolving around Silvarea. This lasted for nearly 100 years. The two sides engaged each other in the mountain pass, each gaining and losing ground at an extremely slow pace. Thousands were killed on both sides, although those slain by Draken's army were said to have died from some particularly really slow and lingering death. As the war progressed though, the Avarrockian army proved insufficient in fending off the campaign. Thousands of adults and children, many lacking any military experience, were all called upon from small agricultural communities throughout Misselin to serve. This was how drastic it had become. Regardless though, Draken ultimately at this point was winning this battle, through not only greater tactics, but sheer force. His racially diverse military was virtually bottomless in number. Much of House Draken itself was actually present on the front lines of this war, which prompted Draken to betray his brother Count Drano and leave him trapped within Misselin. Whether or not Draken himself was present at the site of the campaign still to this day remains unknown. Draken is, after all, a figure largely shrouded. It was not until roughly 1200 of the 4th Age that Misselin was finally able to launch an effective defense against Draken and his hordes. This was done by 7 priestly warriors. They go by the names of Evander Iriandel Caistlin, Sal Dunnigan, Derrigal Templeton, RSLore the Pious, Friar Twiblick, and Evander Gar. These 7 priestly warriors emerged from various small Miscellanean settlements and led the Misselin's military. Draken's forces soon were pushed back to the River Selve in less than a year, prompting the priests to cast a joint spell of Saradomin's power upon this selve. The spell itself created a powerful holy barrier within the river itself, which prompted death in Draken's followers should they ever touch it. At this time, 6 of the 7 priests were actually slaughtered in the final sweep of Draken's forces, perhaps simply just so Draken could have his revenge. This left only Evander to fight alone. Evander actually decided to lead an unsuccessful final campaign alongside his soldiers, such as Coergius Virus, into Morytania. The Patadermis Temple was actually built over the Selve's point of origin as a means of monitoring the border. The blessing of the Selve would mark the beginning of a new period of heavy isolation for Morytania and Draken, who grew increasingly bitter in the aftermath of this event. So that was the Morytania campaign. Basically, Draken decided to launch an offensive to try and expand his lands further to the west, and decided on Avarrocka as being the best choice, as not long prior to this he actually took a force and tried to head into the Caridian desert, but actually failed. It was the 7 priestly warriors that actually managed to defend Avarrocka and finally push Draken and his minions back to where they came from. But 6 of these men were slaughtered mercilessly by the hands of one final wave from Draken's army, which left only Evander and his close soldier friends to actually push in towards Morytania to actually try and strike a lethal blow against Draken himself, although they ultimately did fail. So let's get into the 7 priestly warriors themselves then. Not a lot is actually known about these men, although the acts we do know of through the Morytania campaign and the historical records. But the actual people themselves? Well, not a massive amount is known. We do have some transcripts from some ancient texts, which does give a slight inkling of what these men were like. So let's go into that then. Evander of Lumbridge was said to be a deft and well-skilled man of unusual appearance. He held a most bizarre control over some powerful minions of Draken's horde. A rod or a staff of some kind helped imbue him with such power. Then, with the aid of a Gothic serum, he was said to have turned the vile entities. Oftentimes this would destroy the creature instantly, or revert it to its original incarnation, or worst of all, enraging this beast greatly, much to the chagrin of his holy brothers. So Evander could very well be the leader of these 7 priestly warriors, or at least the figurehead. You can actually find Evander weapon during a quest within Runescape itself, and you can find the Rod of Evandis. You can actually find it in the Maya Key tunnels by removing the planks boarding up the entrance. It's widely made of sapphires, silver and mithril, and it's said that the rod was actually blessed half by human magic and half by the holiness of the river Selva itself. So another of the priestly warriors was Iriendel Caislin. So we do have a little bit of information on this person. Apparently Iriendel was a true leader of the Holy Seven, though really ever a footfall in front of Evandis, who was ever eager to smash the evil and force the tide back into Morytania. So Iriendel was said to be the true leader and the true brains behind the outfit. But Serges was also one of the main leaders. He was their military force. Another of these 7 priestly warriors was Sal Dunnigan. Sal Dunnigan was said to be a pious yet incredibly brutal man. When wielding his mace, he led many fighters on skirmishes to keep the evil from spreading and outflanking the group. It is claimed that he was actually hailed from Edgeville. However, it is known that King Rold ordered the foundation of Edgeville in the year of 169 of the 5th Age, while Dunnigan lived during the middle of the 4th Age. So perhaps not Edgeville itself as we know it today, but maybe a small outcrop village, which was generally in the Edgeville area. Well, we don't know what we don't know, so let's move on to Derrigal Templeton. Derrigal Templeton was a great oak of a man, so well imbued with Saradomin's will and martial ability that he fair commanded people's respect and admiration, and they eagerly followed him into battle. His booming voice rallied men in times of fierce fighting, this allowing them to regroup and focus their brutal savage violence and force capitulation from writhing cowardly evil hordes. So Derrigal was the morale of this group of 7 priestly warriors. He was the one who kept everyone eager and ready to fight. So next is Erisale the Pious. Erisale the Pious was a woman of such noble and just nature that she commanded the will of Misthalanian fighters high and right, ever to be found at the front of the battle, displaying courage and aiding those in need. So Erisale was the one everyone decided to look up to, and put faith in that what they was doing was correct. Next is Friar Twiblick. So Friar Twiblick was a devout man of worship, whose brave talks and uncommon speeches was said to have raised the spirits and abilities of men above that of mortals, so they fought as though Guthix himself were at their side, redressing the balance that his dark self has spoiled. And last but not least is Esiander Gar. Or Esiander Gar, sorry. Esiander Gar was a fearless woman at even such a worthy age. It was said that her indignation at the evil scourge was enough to make the most cowardly of men in her ranks act like lions in the fiercest fighting. So all in all, these 7 priestly warriors were greatly skilled warriors, very powerful, and commanded the respect and the morale of the troops with them. And together, they actually managed to forge an arrow straight through the Morytanian army of Draken, and actually pushed them all the way back. Without these 7 priestly warriors, who knows what could have happened? Avarrocka and much of Mistalin, and possibly even towards Falador, may actually have been consumed by Draken by this time. These men are paid heavy respect. In fact, their prominence is such that Geilinor's calendar system uses adaptations of the warriors' names themselves as days of the week, corresponding to Sunday to Saturday. They are in order: Ivan Day, Kaisel Day, June Day, Gull Day, RSLore, Twiblick, and Essian Day. It is also found that these 7 priestly warriors were in fact temple knights. If you go to talk with historian Minos in the Avarrocka Museum about them after the aid of the Morytania quest, he will actually inform you about their tales, and he will tell you the fact that these 7 priestly warriors were indeed temple knights of Saradomin himself. Now when I say temple knights, I don't mean the White Knights of Falandor, which you may be confused with. By the temple knights I mean the elite Philidian troop of Saradomin's servants, dedicated to defeating any threat to Saradomin himself. Of these temple knights that we know of today, Certification is the head of recruitment, and Survey Lance is the head of operations, and you can find them within within Falador itself. These temple knights are fierce warriors who follow Saradomin fiercely. These temple knights were the ones that actually forced back the sea slugs and their leader Mother Malum. These are proud, powerful warriors. But even though you may think that these temple knights are pious and good, whether or not the temple knights are as good as they make out remains to be seen though. Juna the Snake, who was met during the Tears of Guthix quest, comments that their intentions may not be what they see when the player tells her of their exploits involving the temple knights. Even Lucian the Marjara believes that following the temple knights will inevitably be bad for you, stating that the Black Knights have been more politically motivated of late by their ongoing persecution at the hands of those hypocrites, the White Knights, and their masters, the Temple Knights, whose machinations will only be to your detriment. So the Temple Knights may or may not be good and pious, but they are fierce followers of Saradomin himself, and simply due to their exploits being able to force back the sea slugs, as well the 7 priestly warriors being able to force back Dragon's forces back into Morytania. The Temple Knights themselves are very clearly immensely powerful people. But that's not the end entirely of the Morytania campaign, although the 7 priestly warriors don't actually live past this time, as with Siegfried's left he did push into Morytania herself, although ultimately failed in his quest to destroy Draken and his horde. These warriors still remain though as some of humanity's most universally celebrated historical figures, although they are most frequently referenced in Miscellanean lore and history. Their exploits have been compared to those of the Barrows brothers, who actually died near the Sanguinesti region in the late 3rd Age / 4th Age. And that is actually the next part of the story, the Sanguinesti region war. But that is another story for another time. So this was a quick little showcase on the 7 priestly warriors. I thought you should know about this, and there we go. Hopefully now you found some bit more respect for what happened with the humans during the late 3rd and early 4th ages. So with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this quick little episode, and I will catch you all later. Have a good one.